NTConsult, orchestrating technology to move business forward.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of NT Talks. I'm Marcelo Ceribelli, General Manager for North American Operations at NTConsult, and today's guest is José Manuel de Arce, someone who has had a front row seat to some of the biggest technology transformations in the last 3 decades. José currently serves as Deputy Director of OSS Technology and BSS Infrastructure at Telefónica. From helping build internet infrastructure in the 90s to leading large-scale technology teams and automation programs, he brings a unique perspective on how technology and organizations evolve. Over the past 30 years, he has worked across networking, service, data centers, virtualization, software, and automation initiatives, often acting as the bridge between different technology domains. Good afternoon, José.
Hello, good afternoon.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's my first podcast, so be gentle.
I'm sure it's going to be fun for both of us. Throughout your career, you've moved across many different areas, networking, servers, data centers. How important do you think it is for technology professionals to work at the intersection of different technology domains, rather than staying within a single specialization?
Well, the problems, usually business problems, they don't belong to only one domain. So to be able to speak the language of several domains and have a broader picture, I think is a key skill for anybody that aims to solve problems and add value or have impact in the organization. I will use the word value and an impact because for any professional, the measurement of the career evolution is impact, is the radius of impact. It's how much in the industry or in your company your activities resound and are known. And then if you're a specialist in any specific technology, once you're very good at that, the temptation to say no to a problem that falls out of it is big. And if you have a broader understanding and a broader ambition to understand different pieces, it's easier to face the problem and own it and eventually produce results on them. So the knowledge of different technologies and different tools is very important in my experience to bring value to any company, business, customer, any situation.
Can you share a specific example from your career where understanding the 2 different technology layers allowed you to solve a problem or to create value in a way that wouldn't have been possible from a single domain perspective?
Well, when I started, for example, there was a very clear division in the telecom, from the telco side of things, the big switches and eventually the routers, and then the servers. And there were 2 completely different domains. I came with an understanding of the Linux, the first Linux versions in 95, 94, and understanding how servers and software could do what the network couldn't do, even from gathering data, present results, and doing some interaction. That was a very good solution to many new problems. And also, for example, in data centers, the virtualization of the data center and the big network, when you can connect the different planes, that was also a very good solution for this beginning of the software-defined data centers, to connect the virtualized planes in the servers that people knew in the server world to what the networking people knew that the BRFs and router visualization could do. So linking these 2 together, in this case, allowed us, for example, when we started the data center businesses, to really have spliced spaces for every customer and turn a facility into a multi-tenant solution, which before was a monolith. And then you need to bring the 2 worlds together, and this is the kind of bridges that have been very helpful. That's the 2 big examples.
And it's interesting how visualization is so obvious nowadays, but way back then it was like, what we're doing?
Yeah, it's been a pendulum, because some of the things that were big in the 70s or in the 80s, in the beginning of the mainframe and so on, now they are back. And there's also some other examples on the software and hardware, and now it's back. So virtualization is for good. Everything is virtualized, and this is the reality we live now. There's a pattern for problem solutions in our industry, which is adding another layer of abstraction. And now everybody knows that you run a virtual machine on a virtual environment, on a container, and there's several layers down to the hardware. And if you see an IP packet on the internet, there's also several layers of encapsulation itself, because usually encapsulation is another way to solve a problem. You have the first IPsec tunnels, and then the MPLS, and then it's a thing of adding layers is a big solution to many, many problems, adding abstraction layers.
And the evolution on the hardware efficiency made it much more efficient to add those layers.
Yeah, of course, in our time, the big win that has been pushing our industry and my career, my time, is Moore's law. This doubling the compute power every 18 months. That's been a promise that has a lot of potential, made the industry what it is today. This combined with the ability to make money out of it, to monetize these things. But as we say in football, now that we are in the World Cup shooting, you have to shoot and aim for the hole where the player is not yet there. Or in shooting is you have to shoot where the duck is going to be, not what it is now. So the big leaders and the Googles of the space and the big companies that bet a solution in which the technology would be in a 2 years framework, as in cost and computing power, are usually getting the benefits for this big bet.
And talking about that evolution you have observed, so from building internet infrastructure in the mid-90s to today's AI-driven world, you have witnessed several technology shifts, as you're mentioning. So over the past 3 decades, could you share a few examples of these shifts that were most memorable for you, and maybe some that you only realized years later how important it was?
I think perspective, when you look back in your lifetime, you look back in your technology field, but also in medicine, in food technologies, in transport and travel everywhere. Connectivity bandwidth increase has been fantastic. The flat rate concept for many has been the way to make technology and services accessible. Also the XDSL, eventually to be able to compress more megabits into the simple home cable, and then the fiber to the home. Doing the same thing with the radio, being able to push megabits of information into the same wavelength by adding codification and different codecs and so on. The batteries, for example, the battery technologies that allow for mobile phones to be able to display videos and for hours. These are stacking technologies that put together are completely fantastic. They have changed the world. You look back and I could never dream of see URLs, for example, in buses or in everywhere. And now everything is everywhere. You see the internet is permeable and the mobile phones are permeable, and eventually we will see AI, which is the next big wave, permeable. We will see it everywhere.
Yeah, and as we were talking before, I was really impressed to realize, or surprised maybe the word, to realize that you were at the early innings of the internet revolution in Spain, where you were part of the activation of the first 2 megabits connection, internet connection between Spain and USA back then?
Yeah, it was the US, yes. It was the first commercial peering from Telefónica with UNET. It was the AS701. We had the cable. We knew the cable. The cable was coming from Madrid. It was through a little town coast in the south of Spain called Chipiona, which is famous because of the food and the beach and so on. And we knew the cable landed in Pompano Beach in the US. And we knew because it was our only cable. So we were not doing cables at all. The people in the ships, they were doing submarine cables and so on, but it was our baby. It was the core that linked Spain, our Telefónica ISP with the rest of the world. And then very quickly came another one to London, then it was upgrades, and then from then on it was unstoppable, because the public and the people and the businesses and individuals were so eager to have access to this that eventually it was the flat rate in the telephone, which was a limiting factor before, and then it was the XDSL to be able to squeeze megabits into your local loop, not just the old modem. And then it was fiber to the home, and then it was in the phone, and then the information was there, and the streaming services were there, and now everything is connected from this single link.
It's amazing how far we have gone from that time when 2 megabits was all the internet, public internet connections for a whole country like Spain, to today, where that is really... If you have a 2 megabits connection at your own house, it is too slow from your point of view. It's crazy, no?
Yeah, you complain, you say it's not enough.
Yes.
But also, Marcelo, I'm also really humbly standing on the shoulders of giants, because before us, there were the academic and university communities doing these things, not for commercial services, but just for research and so on. So eventually industry took over this fantastic product, what we call now the internet, and it was the big revolution. So we enjoyed the 2 megabits link, but the first researchers were doing email exchange with 64 kilobits over the Atlantic and so on. So yeah, I think the industry stands on the stacking skills of many individuals and many giants that have been there before us. Yeah.
So now I would like to change a little bit gears towards automation, orchestration, AI. So here at NTConsult, we often see organizations eager to automate processes without fully understanding how these processes actually work or how they impact the broader operation. In your experience, what is the most effective way to approach automation initiatives specifically?
Well, one of the differences that I mentioned before in the two worlds is that I was coming from the Unix world. And the Unix world, you have from the very beginning this fantastic shell tool, scripting, and you can really put things into automatic loops, scripts, and so on. And for anybody working at a scale, having the automation, it's something that goes into your brain and stays there forever. You look for constant opportunities to automate things. And as you evolve in the business problems and so on, you start automating everything, the business. And then the key thing when the project is big and goes through, past your own personal capacity, the key things I've seen giving results is somebody, a sponsor, as high in the CEO level as possible, really with a visionary, somebody that shares the vision and don't talk automation, doesn't talk automation because they like the word, but because they believe in it, they have skin in the game, and they need to push the second part, which is the team. You need a team or some people that are really doers. They are very committed. They are willing to solve the problem and own the solution. And then as a third part, you need a tool. I won't say the best tool because you make the tool good. The tool doesn't come out of the box being blessed on the right one. You need to make it good. So these three ingredients, having a sponsor as high as possible, which will push you through the bad times, having a good team that especially doers, you need doers that know that the success depends on them and they get the hands dirty and they then do it. You cannot rely on a vendor only. You need to embrace the change, and then the tool, and you need to believe in the tool and make it good. I've seen occasions of blaming the tool or blaming the vendor, which is a very easy temptation, and usually that's a reflect of some organizational problems, rivalries, lack of communication, not really interest on solving problems, just moving the political agenda at some point, doing transformation, but not really solving problems. So these three components are key.
And this year you met our team at Comundacom Amsterdam, conference that we showcase some of the latest innovations in process automation and orchestration. Since you've been involved in these topics for quite some time, can you share an example of telecommunications industry where platforms like Camunda helped transform a process or improve operations?
Yeah, for us in the last years, what we have done with Camunda, for example, is the troubleshooting and diagnose of ticketing, network ticketing, service ticketing in general, by enriching all the network events through layers of logic, which were orchestrated by Camunda, in this case, orchestrated. So you get an event, you parse the event, and once the event filters and goes through and you know it's a critical event, you need to touch different systems, enrich the event, and eventually open a ticket with the whole information from the inventory, with extracting information from the equipment to easy the diagnose for the human, reaching with it, having the information of the business impact of for the customer that you get from the customer information. So this orchestration of the different pieces of information is very important. And another one, of course, is delivery and provision. And activation basically is to move a bit, an offer that you have won, a contract from provisioning to order handling, and then eventually to delivery and activation through the network. And doing it in a visible way, so you can audit and see every instance of the activation process. Where is it? What is going on? What values it's taking? If it's waiting because of some external interaction, you see that there. So these long-running processes that before you had to debug by mail, if you allow me, asking people who knows anything anything about this offer. You know the link, but you don't know you lose track of it. And with orchestration that encapsulates and allows you to see what is going on, this is a big difference. And these two cases are the most direct that I have seen and see they measure the value and it really is changing the lives of the people using them.
Interesting. I can imagine the client calling to see what is the status of the link that I bought and people scrambling to see who has the action, where is stopped, and there are so many people involved. And with the orchestration, you have that very clear path, very clear idea of where it is in the path.
Yeah. Also in international services where you have many countries, every country is a world, different providers, different vendors, there is no homogeneity of a way of doing things. So it's a much more loose set of situation. It's a jungle out there.
And as the AI becomes more integrated into business operations, how do you see the relationship between process orchestration, automation, and AI evolve in the coming years?
Well, the AI is the thing of the times. No, it's very interesting. I think that what Bern was commenting in the KamundaCon was very interesting because humans, in the sense of service delivery and business, we crave order and predictability. So you need to put the harness of predictability into what the AI is doing to the process. I think incorporating it as a human in the loop to make it observable, to understand why it decides what it does, it's key. So it will be part of the whole process as a human as a human participant, but artificial intelligence doing what it does best, which is processing massive amount of information and extracting what you want, but running governed by some guardrails or protections.
Awesome. Now I would like to change towards building teams for technology transformation as a topic. So Jose, over the years, your role evolved from a hands-on technical work into leading highly specialized technology teams. The transition gives you a unique perspective, not only on technology itself, but also on people behind it. So what skills and characteristics do you look for when identifying professionals who can successfully bridge multiple technology domains and help organizations navigate change?
I think that two traits that are very important, or different profiles of people. For everything, in my experience, you need different profiles of people. No, there is this metaphor or comparison with a green beret, the soldier and the policeman. You need different profiles to break the walls and open a beachhead to get the first results, the first blink and leaf, the first of everything. Then you need somebody relentless, patient to really make it scale, put order into it, put government into it, put procedures and give it the volume that it needs. And then in every organization stable in time, you also need the figure of the policeman, which is almost a boring job, but very important, which is keep the society running in peace without problems and solving the problems as soon as it show up. So these are the different traits that I think in my team, I always look for apply the right person to the right problem, but you need to have the set of skills, the doers that are not afraid of jumping into the unknown. You need the people with order that are able to keep the calm and slowly but relentlessly deploy the solution and make it big and scale. And then you also need the job of the guarding the solution, fighting the little problems that appear, and which is what I call the police role.
Interesting. Identifying the right profile for the right stage of the problem of the projects, right?
Yeah, it's complicated. Somebody that lives in a fear of security job, for example, to convince him to jump into a new tool, into a new project, they only see the risk, and there needs to be a reward. And this is the trait. There are different characters, mindsets for that, and also somebody that really has ambition to have an impact, to learn. They are willing to pay the price of big effort and maybe a little bit of suffering, uncertainty, but learn in the process and add value and be recognized at the end. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, on this topic of soft skills, so beyond the technical expertise, which are the soft skills that the technology professionals should have as these organizations become more interconnected?
So looking at the layer that touches the business and the humans, not the deep, experts on profound software development, doing the driver, spending 24 hours. The multi-skill individuals, they need to be empathic, to be able to put themselves into the shoes of the people they are talking with, whether it's either the engineer, the customer, the sales, the product manager. They need to understand and project themselves out of themselves and try to see the world from different eyes. Also, I find communication very important. Storytelling, communication, that people remember what they feel in a presentation, not exactly the content, but if they feel that something can be done, that something is good, that something has value, this is the message they get from the presentation, and the storytelling is very important. Patience is usually underrated. Be ambitious, but be patient, because you will get in 3 or 4 years a lot more, and not in 1 year. So being patient is also very important. And in my opinion, in my experience, a human touch, a sensitivity to human motivation and the human being which you are working with. I think this is a good set of soft skills.
Awesome, man. And I think that sensitivity is also connected with the empathy part as well, of being able to understand and put yourself on the shoes of the other person you need to interact, interconnect with, so that you understand where they're coming from and what their doubts, frustrations, or reluctance may be. Cool.
There is a very important layer of human relationships I think, at least in my experience. And to be able to trust individuals and be trustful and be trusted is very important. Technology-wise, you can be super genius, but at some point you need to call somebody, not necessarily as a friend, but as somebody that you trust and he trusts you, and work together. And this working together is key. And this is something that you have to develop over time. I'm not talking about just empty networking in places, but events like Camunda Cons or any other conference. It's very important to connect to your peers and just to exchange some words and discover the human behind that, because from these relationships and this exchange of ideas can come a lot of value for everybody's career and everybody's experience.
The collective intelligence is larger than just any individual person trying to do by himself or herself solving the problem by herself and himself. Yes, for so true. So before we wrap up, I would like to ask if you can also have a suggestion of who you would recommend for future NT Talks episode.
Okay, so that was an interesting challenge that you put me in advance. I had come with 2 names, but let's see what you think about. One is a person I admire, and I don't personally know, so I don't have access to him, but I follow him in different forums, and I think it's very interesting. He's Dimitris Bountolos. He's the CIO of Ferrovial, which is an international construction company doing airports, roads, digital spaces of airports and roads, all the signaling, all the cars, all the modeling, also in the airports, all the people, planes, everything coming out. He's a very interesting person. He's been acknowledged by the industry, has many awards and so on. He's a very interesting person.
What specifically he posts about on LinkedIn that caught your attention? Or is there something that he posted that he stuck with you as very interesting in particular?
Well, he describes how AI, for example, is integrating into his industry. And every week he posts explorations that the company does. They have been testing the famous Mythos against different models and see what they can do. They are analyzing how digital twins could improve or improve understanding on how infrastructures behave for the people using it, how technology helps the users and people and the companies, and how to transform a real estate or construction company into more, how to digitalize that. This I find very interesting because it resonates with me when I try to see how drive change and how things that work, things that doesn't work, and so on. And then the second individual is individual that I also know in a deep technology plane, which I think is very important, is trust and identity. The identity in these days, which is Klaas Weidenga, which is the inventor of EduRoam, which is one service that allows every European student, professor in the university, schools, and so on to roam Wi-Fi in every part of Europe. And the identity technology behind it, all the trust between the different schools, universities, government agencies, everybody subscribing. The technology behind it is also very, very interesting and delicate and important for Europe and for the users and for the world, no? To make sure that you keep your identity for yourself and how the passport, the cards, the students' credentials do not leak and they don't have leakage of identity theft and so on is very interesting. He's been also with Cisco in the past, and he also has a very interesting career on experiences on the impact of technology in society. And these are the two names I just came with.
Awesome. Thank you for the suggestions. Yeah, you mentioned EduRoam. I think this is also used in Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, and my mom is a teacher at a university, and she was visiting universities here in the US, and she said, I cannot access the internet because of this solution.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, that's one of the good things of EduRoam, because in Europe there is an academic network. It's called GEANT that federates and gets together all the academic networks in Europe, but they have agreements and relationships with all the South America university networks and all the African university networks and some Asian university networks. So as a country, they relate, as a continent, they relate with South America, Africa, Asia. So any student from Brazil with EduRoam in Brazil comes to Europe and they roam free in Wi-Fi in any university in Europe, and it works both ways because the product is the same. They support the same service, and it's all identity. You are trusted by university, the same student is trusted by Brazilian university. And if you are a professor, you can, the trust goes with you and your credentials. This is the value of the technology.
So before we close, anything that we haven't touched that you thought as we were talking here that you would like to cover or share with our audience?
I'm very grateful, Marcelo and NTTalks, for having me. And it's an honor after many years in Telefónica. Now that I'm retiring, I'm looking for my next gig, which I already have in mind in my horizon. And I'm very grateful. And I hope it's interest for your listeners.
So Jose, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your lessons we've learned across these years of technology transformation. Your perspective reminds us that innovation is often driven by curiosity, collaboration, the ability to connect different domains. It was a pleasure having you on our NT Talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
NTConsult. Great people coding the future.